Tax cuts on the line. Experts and lawmakers we've talked to this week agree if the GOP drags its feet, it could miss the window to deliver.
It could be the triple B or it could be three bills. Either way, we're going to get the job done.
We're all supportive of a big, beautiful bill that President Trump has suggested. If you look at it, it's the quickest and best process to get as much of the wins that we possibly can that President Trump campaigned on.
I believe one bill is critical to get all of it across the finish line, keep everybody unified and focused on the task at hand.
Joining us now, Wisconsin Republican Senator Ron Johnson, member of the Senate Homeland Security and Budget Committee. Sir, good to see you. Let me ask you this question from one of the angles of your background, which is as a guy who ran a manufacturing business for a long time. You hired, you set budgets, you looked at the tax environment, and that was part of the planning that you went through to decide how you're going to invest, what you're going to do. I think the fear of small businesses is if they don't get an answer on all this stuff quickly, it's going to be hard to navigate 2025. How do you address that?
Well, first of all, I think they can rest assured that the Republicans in charge will not allow a massive automatic tax increase to take effect in 2026. Now, from my standpoint, I think a two-step approach makes more sense. Let's make sure we give President Trump the funding he needs to secure the border. And then I think the tax provisions are going to be more complex. But again, we have every incentive. I think every Republican is going to want to do everything they can to avoid a massive automatic tax increase. So again, what will happen is the House will go ahead and start working on their process. The Senate will work on ours. This is not unusual for us to take different approaches to the same particular issue. We can conference any kind of differences, or we'll take up one package versus the other. Again, I'm pretty ambivalent in terms of exactly how it all ends up in the end. But, I think we're all dedicated, and I think that's the good news. And, there's a lot of collaboration with Speaker Johnson, with Leader Thune. There's bicameral cooperation. I mean, conservative senators, conservative House members. There's a lot of cooperation, a lot of collaboration. That's a good thing.
Senator, just before we went on the air, breaking news, Supreme Court upholding the ban on TikTok. The company has until January 19th to divest from parent company ByteDance. Kevin O'Leary was on Fox News, and he said this.
And this is really up for ByteDance to decide. And we think that ByteDance should seriously consider this because the argument made by their lawyers, I think, fell on deaf ears regarding freedom of speech. We'll make it very free speech.
Senator Johnson, I just want to correct myself. Oral arguments today, it appears they will uphold that ban. Your thoughts about where we stand on this issue?
I have to admit, I'm pretty ambivalent about it. I think there's far greater threats to our national security than who owns TikTok. But, I also understand the point of view of kind of both sides here. So we'll let the courts decide on that. I don't think it's going to be a big deal one way or the other.
Okay, Senator Johnson, let's look ahead to next week then, because another big important task ahead of you are confirmation hearings. They're set to get kicked off. And this is coming as I saw a headline from the New York Times just today saying Democrats are trying to slow this process down as Republicans, you guys are trying to deliver to Trump the cabinet that he wants. Do you think that's going to happen?
No, they really can't do much to slow it down. They could help us speed it up, but not much they can do to really slow it down. There have been some paperwork issues in terms of getting FBI background checks approved into the committees. But I think I'm scheduled to have be involved in 3 confirmation hearings next week alone, probably even more. So, listen, Republicans realize that President Trump won a very convincing election. He's the one who gets to decide who he wants serving in his administration. Our job is to confirm those picks, and I think that's the attitude most Republican senators take.
All right, sir, let me ask you about this really quickly. About 30 seconds ago, Elon Musk seems to have revised his Doge projections down a little bit from $2 trillion in cuts to $1 trillion in cuts. Does that bother you? Are you just peachy happy with $1 trillion if that's what we get?
Well, first of all, that's in terms of what he's going to try and do in terms of efficiency. What I've been talking about is we need to understand that prior to the pandemic, we spent $4.4 trillion. For the last 5 years, we've averaged 6.5. We need to return to a pre-pandemic baseline. If we do that, we'll save $10 trillion plus. That's what I'm working on.
Okay, $10 trillion. I like that number, okay. Senator Ron Johnson. Good way to end the show. Appreciate it.